Myths are stories that were created long before we had Google to tell us the truth about the world. And since no one was around to fact-check them, people came up with some pretty creative explanations for things like why the sky is blue, or why we have noses. But while these myths may not be true, they're still important because they can tell us a lot about the ancient people who believed them. Hi, I'm here, and let's start answering some questions. Question number 1. Why do we sneeze when we're about to die? You know the drill. Someone in a movie is about to die. Dramatic music starts playing, their eyes roll back in their head, and they let out a mighty sneeze. And just like that, they're dead. Well, this idea has been around since ancient Greece. The philosopher Plato wrote about it more than 2,000 years ago. He thought that the soul lived in the body until it got kicked out by a violent sneeze, which could happen at any time. So if you felt a sneeze coming on, you should have spoken your last words and made your final arrangements right then and there. These days, we know that souls don't get evicted by sneezes, but Plato wasn't totally wrong. Sneezing is the body's way of protecting itself from foreign particles like dust and pollen. And sometimes those particles can irritate your brainstem, which might trigger an automatic response in some people, like rolling back their eyes or fainting. But rest assured, unless you're allergic to the actual plague, a sneeze won't kill you. Question no. 2. Where did all the animals go when the Great Flood happened? Remember the story of Noah's Ark? Him and his family built an enormous boat and took 2 of every animal with them when God flooded the earth. Now, where did all those animals go after the flood? Well, according to the Babylonian creation epic, they went to heaven. But it's not exactly a happy ending for them. After the floodwaters receded, the gods apparently got bored with the animals and started throwing them into the sea. They turned into fish. See, before the flood, all the animals hung out with the gods on Mount Nemash, where they were fed delicious food and entertained by musicians. But when the flood hit, the gods left the mountain and went to the highlands of Dilmun instead. So the animals got pretty salty about being abandoned and decided to make their own way to heaven. They climbed onto Mount Mashu, which was so tall that its peak was in the sky. But halfway up the mountain, they ran out of food, so they started eating each other. The birds were the first to go, followed by the reptiles, amphibians, and mammals. Finally, only a pair of fish remained. That's when the gods remembered they existed and scooped them up to take care of. Apparently, that was too much work. The second time around. And question no. 3. Why do women get pregnant in their left hand? In the 19th century, it was commonly believed that babies developed from the left-handed sperm. This might have come from an ancient Greek myth about how children acquire certain traits based on which hand they reborn with. If a baby was born holding their mother's right hand, they'd grow up to be strong and smart. But if they grabbed her left hand, they would be weak and stupid. Of course, this isn't true. Babies are born with their hands curled up into fists, and it's completely random which one they open first. But the idea stuck around long enough for Shakespeare to mention it in The Tempest. And even today, some parents do hope their unborn baby will reach for the right hand first. Just don't plan your child's future based on which hand they grab first. There's a lot more that goes into being a good parent than that. For starters, maybe leave your child in the womb for another 9 months. So the next time you hear one of these myths, ask yourself, is it really what it seems? Because in the days before smartphones, people had to rely on their imaginations to fill in the blanks when they didn't know something. And sometimes the stories they came up with were wildly inaccurate, but also kind of fun to think about. Speaking of imagination, if you want to learn more about the real world, starting with real science, you'll love Brilliant. With over 60 courses in math, science, and computer science, Brilliant teaches you everything from the basics of AI to the theory of relativity. And because learning doesn't have to be boring, Brilliant uses interactive challenges to help you understand even the most complex topics. It's easy to use, and you can learn at your own pace. Whether you have 10 minutes or an hour, with new lessons added monthly, there's always something fresh to learn on Brilliant.